technology known as blockchain is revolutionizing the way transactions are done in a growing number of industries. The Ontario Securities Commission recently held a fintech hackathon. Our next guest used blockchain to win first prize. He also won a spot on the OSC's Fintech Advisory Committee. Here's our recent conversation. Francis Pouliot is the director of the Bitcoin Embassy and team leader at Existence Labs. Francis, I want to start by asking about this new role at the OSC. What is it, and why is it important at this stage?
Right. The OSC decided to name me advisor on a committee member on their advisory committee for fintech. So what this tells me is that the regulator has an open mind and is looking towards the future. So this is one of the first regulators in the world to integrate a blockchain Bitcoin expert on one of its committees. So I think it's a very good sign for us.
The OSC, is the OSC trying to catch up to better understand this technology? And yes. Is that an important role for you to play?
Absolutely, the OSC is trying to catch up, and I've been in the industry for about 4 years now, and every day I'm also trying to catch up. The pace of innovation in the blockchain and Bitcoin space is beyond belief. We usually say that a week in Bitcoin is a year in the real world. So they're trying to catch up, but hopefully our expertise and the expertise of our team from Montreal is gonna save them some time and bring them up to speed, and we will be able to tackle those issues together as the technology and finance evolves.
Indeed, you talk about the pace and the innovation being so quick, and when we usually think of blockchain, we think often of just the financial services sector. Where else is blockchain spreading and really beginning to develop?
Right. So I think most industries are looking at blockchain in some way or another, where it be supply chain management, even certification, agriculture. But I think where the actual disruption is happening right now in the non-financial world is definitely the legal space. So notarization, digital signatures, proving contracts, gathering evidence. The blockchain is able to, leveraging the technologies of public key encryption, provide massive improvements in those fields. So anything that has to do with certification or notarization or legal is about to get heavily disrupted.
And I mean, the potential for disruption through blockchain across the board is enormous. Are the Canadian banks paying attention enough to this and adopting this technology quickly enough?
Well, the Canadian banks are all very interested. That means that they are financing proof of concepts, they are sponsoring hackathons, they're definitely doing outreach to the community to get our input. I'm not seeing the banks changing their complete infrastructure to blockchain anytime soon. These banks are built on 30, 40 years of legacy architecture, which is very difficult to replace, but they're very interested. Also, even the Bank of Canada is doing some research on blockchain. So I think right now the mood is, let's just get information and wait and see where this technology goes.
There are people who say there is a sense of complacency among the big five banks, at the very least, and financial institutions that go along with them. Have you seen any of that complacency, or do you see the banks really trying to get involved and adopt?
I think historically there has been a lot of complacency, and maybe this is why the fintech sector is booming so much in Canada. I think there is a market void. I mean, there's not a lot of competition in the banking sector, let's be honest, and when there's no competition and when there's very high barriers to entry, you tend to sit on your laurels. So this is where we're trying to come in, right? We're trying to show that there's really disruptive and alternative technologies, and hopefully this motivates the bank to integrate those technologies and provide better services to Canadians.
And I mean, every time I read about this, I hear about Canadian companies involved in blockchain and in Bitcoin, that this is becoming our country something of a hub in the blockchain world. What can you tell us about that?
Well, that's been the goal of the Bitcoin Embassy and our group in Montreal for the past 4 years, to make Canada a global hub for blockchain and Bitcoin. A lot of Canadians share this ambition in Toronto and Vancouver. There's a lot of groups that are pushing towards that, and it's not a coincidence that we keep doing efforts and pushing at the civil society level, financial institutions level, the government level, and it's finally paying off. We're seeing the regulator now that is paying attention, the Canadian government's paying attention, and all the banks, as I said, are looking at this technology. So it's not a coincidence. We're just working very hard. We're very proud of Canada, and we want to stay in Canada. We don't want to go to Silicon Valley. We don't want to have to go to New York. We want to do what we do best and do it at home.
If we continue down this path of innovation, and if we get it right, we talk an awful lot about the potential impact of blockchain. What are the jobs that will cease to exist 5 or 10 years from now if blockchain continues to do what we think it can?
One of the great things about blockchain is it gives power back to people to do self-validation and self-auditing. So the audit profession, I think, is in for some serious trouble because blockchains are so transparent. It's so easy to figure out what happened through the science of public key cryptography. You can figure out who signed the document without having to go through the paperwork. Everything is done automatically. So audit, notarization, some lawyers. Definitely some compliance people because blockchain can help streamline compliance a lot. So all those kind of corporate jobs which are in around the core of banking, I think these will see some heavy disruption in the coming years.